be sharing with you food adventures we had in Bacolod City, as well as sharing in detail my experience with the three legendary chicken in the South places here, as well as other mini various eats and restos we had along the way. So hope you enjoyed the video. If you're new here and enjoy the vibes, be sure to leave a like and subscribe. Thank you so much for supporting, and I hope to see you in the next one. By the way, in this mini voice over vlog style thing, I'll fix the order of the days, but I'll start right away with the three Inasal places, although these happened in three separate days. So I know this is more sought out places in Bacolod, so I'll start with these legendary Aida's chicken, chicken Inasal by Nena Rosa, and chicken Mascara right away, and then I will fix the timeline as the video goes along. By the way, in the background clip, I had some anti-diarrhea meds because I was just recovering from food poisoning via tiny raw oysters. And I didn't want explosive diarrhea floating mid-air, trailing our plane as we flew. And not to mention, I don't think burrito is the best pre-flight meal have to have if you are having an upset stomach. Before getting to the food, gotta say, if you're in Bacolod, or the first thing I experienced in Bacolod was you will really just enjoy the vibes. Like seeing everything is like green around. It's just so beautiful. And straight away, we took a grab and headed straight to our first legendary chicken in a cell stop, Aida's Chicken House. This was our first stop right after our arrival, and this resto gave me the go to it for the vibe style of resto, if you know what I mean. Like relatively clean, but there's no aircon, and you can just feel like there's so much more to it than just a restaurant kind of place. The vibes here were amazing, but definitely if you're into modern, comfort style restaurants, this is not really the place for you. One thing that did irk me a little bit was the amount of vendors inside. There's a giant no vendor sign allowed inside, yet when you go inside the restaurant, there are lots of people soliciting for money and or selling you goodies. At one point even, there was someone literally sticking their face behind my girlfriend's Lola or grandmother, and I swear it was just ruining the experience. Well, not really ruining the experience, but more of it added a level of discomfort to the restaurant. Anyway, the first thing we ordered had to be Coke Zero because there's something about a nice Coke Zero and some oily food that just hits different. Now, straight off the bat, the chicken in the salad here is way more flavorful and not just in a salty, seasoned standpoint. Rather, there's a lot of lemongrass or tanglad flavor in their chicken. And their chicken oil had a nice and different taste to it that went super well with the soy sauce and calamansi and chili. If you ever had pancit canton, for some reason the mix of oil, soy sauce, the calamansi, the chili replicated that exact flavor, and I mean it in the best way possible. A chicken here, if I recall correctly, was only around 179 pesos, which is around 3 US dollars. I had an extra rice with just the sauce, and it was already a banger. Definitely a must try when you go to Bacolod. The food more than made up for the experience, a 10 out of 10. Now we move on to our next legendary chicken in a cell place, and it is Masskara chicken. I'm not so sure, I can't remember the exact price point, but basically every dish price here was very fairly priced from around 3 to 4 US dollars or around 150 to 200 pesos per order. So whether it was a sisig, which you'll see later on, a chicken, and any dish and the like, everything was very fairly priced. So you will not hear any complaint about that. Something different here was the restaurant was very, very clean and comfortable. So automatically a 10 out of 10 for me. But you did, however, have to pay an extra 10% to the bill if you wanted to stay in an aircon room. So that irked some of our kasama or some of our friends who went to the trip with us. But for me, I think it was kind of worth it. And anyway, if you wanted to take the alfresco area, it's also comfortable. We did opt for the extra comfort, by the way, so we did pay for the extra 10% for the aircon rooms. So we had their isaw and some pork barbecues for the skewers. The isaw was the cleanest, and I'm not exaggerating, the cleanest I've ever tasted. It was so good and cooked perfectly. Had a nice charred taste and well seasoned. The barbecue was like a regular barbecue, but hey, what's not to like about a regular barbecue, right? The inasal was juicy and had that signature Bacolod tanglad or lemongrass flavor that just hits different. Super juicy and paired perfect with rice. I had some chicharon bulaklak as well. I love chicharon bulaklak, which is basically a fried pork intestine. I think it's a pork intestine. It was very good, but I think it could have been crispier. It was also very clean, which was definitely a plus. Like there was no weird aftertaste or the like. The sisig was also really good. Nicely seasoned, had the nice smoky flavor you get from being on the sizzling plate, together with that little charred, crispy bits that makes sisig so good. balanced out the richness with a squeeze of calamansi. If you get the sisig, you have to eat it with rice. You already know that. When you're in the Philippines, if you try the sisig, please eat it with rice. Everything here for me was a 10. Again, I am very easy to please when it comes to food, and I swear the comfort of the place and again the vibes of Bacolod just really made this place hands down my favorite in a Sal stop in the trip. We ended our meal with some leche flan, which was not really a must try, but definitely go to Mascara Chicken if you visit Bacolod City. And now we move on to our last but not the least legendary chicken inasal stop. It's Chicken Inasal by Nena Rose. And by the way, I will say a mini disclaimer that we already had this on our last day. So we took the branch in the airport. And wow, the chicken was cooked perfectly. For an airport stall, I didn't expect or don't understand rather how they were able to capture the smoky and trademark tanglad flavor in the chicken. It was super good, and they even had takeaway boxes if you wanted to bring vacuum sealed chicken home. The meat was super tender and perfectly seasoned again. Bacolod does chicken inasal right 100% of the time, based on my experience with these three inasal restaurants. This was the perfect way to end the trip and squeeze the last memorable bit of chicken inasal here. I wish we could have tried the authentic branch in Bacolod and not just the airport for the better experience. But wow, for an airport stall, the chicken here and the experience was definitely a 10 out of 10. This is a must try on your way back home for sure. All right, and I hope you enjoyed the legendary Chicken in a Sal food review, that mini food review. But now we go on to the chronological order of things. So on day one, right after Ida's, we went to get some grocery shopping for a birthday dinner, as the night was my girlfriend's sister's birthday. So we got some steak and pasta ingredients, and of course, we gotta get some dessert. We didn't see any specific dessert spots to try, so we just got some classic Dairy Queen because they had a banger promo, only 139 pesos or almost like $2.50 for 2 cups of these calorie dense monstrosities. So here's our Airbnb. Very, very solid, clean, cozy, and comfortable. We got our chef cooking our dinner, some ribeye steak with some truffle pasta. Yum. The steak was cooked perfectly. Although, of course, I'm forced to say this. But kidding, it was really cooked perfectly. Everything was seasoned well. By the way, she even brought the meat thermometer from Metro Manila all the way here just to cook the steak. And so compliments to the chef. The meal was 1 million over 10. And so, all right, next day we were greeted by these two cute doggos. We got our car rental going on to our next venue. Once again, there's something about the vibes on the road here that's just a lot more chill, although I'm not so sure if it's because we picked a nice time to travel, where the traffic is light and the breeze is just right. By the way, it sounds so poetic. We went to Lacawod in Cadiz, which was a short boat ride from Bacolod, and as someone who gets extremely motion sick, the boat ride was honestly not that bad. It was chill and only around 20 minutes. The beach was beautiful. Something about the beaches here in the Philippines, or at least the ones I've been blessed to visit, just feels so relaxed and clean. We settled in one of the kubos or huts. There were nice charging ports here and there, and we had some fresh crabs, fresh oysters, and snails caught from the area. This was just mind-blowingly good and mind-blowingly fresh. Then we had an additional order from the kitchens or restaurants around the area of grilled squid, pancit, and liampo, and of course, rice. After our trip, we washed up and went back to Bacolod City. We were supposed to visit the ruins, but it was unfortunately closed due to a prior wedding reservation, and we went instead to Art District. It was a very nice place to take some photos and very cool to literally see different kinds of art all over the place. From paintings to sculptures to people even dancing. And there were a lot of caffeine coffee shops nearby, so we had to get our caffeine fix at this point. This coffee shop we went to had really good dark chocolate cookie and truffle grilled cheese. Like not just mediocre cafe, but food, but actually really good and not that expensive food. If I recall correctly, the cafe was named Wayside Coffee, but I'm not so sure. If you just see the place that looks like this, it's worth going to. Everything I got, the cookie, the truffle, grilled cheese, and the coffee was less than 500 pesos. And yeah, definitely drop by. For lunch here on this day, we had mascaras, which we already talked about earlier. We then went straight to Mercy and Bongbong's for some pasalubongs or goodies for the coworkers and friends and family back home. For our dinner, we ate in Sitting Duck. Starting straight, our total bill was a bit less than 3,500 pesos. I'm starting with this because I honestly cannot remember the individual price for the orders. We are sure that the relative bill was pricey for the area, but comparing to Metro Manila prices and just the vibes of the restaurant seeming to be luxurious, it was actually affordable. And for the quality of food and comfort of the restaurant, it was definitely a 10 out of 10. The cheese and artichoke with bread was really good, a solid 8 over 10. The bread was too little, but the dip was nice and flavorful, creamy, and had a mini cheese pull to it. The buffalo wings was a 7 out of 10. Nothing too special, but it was wings done right. Crispy, tangy, and spicy. The clam chowder was a 9 out of 10. Very fresh seafood in the mix, and again seasoned nicely. All of our food for the trip so far was seasoned perfectly. I can't express how some restaurants feel like they're a little bit afraid to put salt, and honestly, my salt palate is very catered to a saltier kind of flavor. But everything we went to so far, everything was seasoned wonderfully. The barbecue ribs and beef salpicao were both a 10 out of 10. The meats were seasoned perfectly again and cooked to perfection. It was my GF's mom's birthday today, hence the B-Day dinner too. We ended the day and the night with a night market in Mega World in the Upper East. Food here was relatively cheap. The shawarma rice was only 140 pesos, if I recall correctly, and had a decent amount of meat and even an egg if you order the special variation. Shomai and takoyaki were both less than 100 pesos each per order, so that's around only $2 per order. And the standout for me was the coffee jelly we had, which was around 150 pesos or $3 for only two cups. I mean, not for only, for two cups, like full cups. And my gosh, they were so good. It was not too sweet, the best compliment an Asian could give any dessert, and it was very creamy and cold and refreshing. Perfect way to end the meal. Starting our next day, we had a very typical breakfast with sausage, eggs, and bacon. But by the way, it's a 1000 over 10 just because of the vibe surrounded by the fresh air and sitting at the comfort of our home. And we moved on to our first trip, which was in Batog Lake Ranch. This is a really cool, definitely a must go if you're in the area or if you're conveniently around the area. I can't remember the options for the entrance fee, but we chose a 200 pesos per person because you can consume the 200 pesos in the restaurant. So it's like saying you're prepaying for a restaurant meal and you get free access to the ranch for 200 pesos, which is not too bad. Feels like stocks freebie entrance for food. I saw mostly locals around here, which is always a good sign, and the vibes were super good. Huge fields with horses, literally able to walk freely around. They had a small fenced area if you wanted to ride the horse and walk the horse while you're on it. That sounded so weird, but anyway, it's only 100 pesos. Here's my attempt on it, and after a while, the horse stopped and yeeted me out. Apparently, the horses here are only comfortable carrying up to 100 kilos, and I weigh more than that. They didn't charge me for the experience, but of course, we still paid for it, and we just told them to take it as a tip if they didn't want it. By the way, I have to add, they don't do anything to the horses negatively. Like, even the way they control the horses to move a certain place or to help mount you on it, or even the time that I had to get off the horse, they're just gently touched or even called to without touching them, and the horses just follow. I feel like it's always a good sign of animal care in the area too. We went to the resto to claim the food, and we had cheese sticks, fries, and our own shakes. Surprisingly, everything was super good. We thought it would be overpriced, hence the bait of buying 200 pesos of consumable food. By the way, 200 pesos around 4 US dollars, 4 to 5 US dollars. But yeah, everything in the restaurant was reasonably priced, and they had good service, good food, and good drinks. The place here was perfect for pictures, and we checked out the other animals in the area too. They had some ducks, they had some peacocks, and they had some furry chickens. For dinner, we went to Gina's Seafood, and the place was packed. There's fresh seafood available inside, and you just pick what you want cooked and how you want it cooked. They have the usual calamansi and soy sauce and chili to pair with the meal, and all the seafoods here were cooked very well. But honestly, for me, nothing was overly a standout. I'm not so sure if it's just because I prefer meat over seafood, because, like I said earlier, I had a mini traumatic tiny oyster experience again with food poisoning. I've been getting food poisoning with seafood recently, and I think maybe that's what added to my I prefer meat over seafoods. But anyway, I mean, they're both meats, but you get the point. I guess if I were to say anything stand out about the place, it was definitely the freshness of the food and the price. For all the seafood you can see here in the clips, the bill came out to being less than 5,000 pesos, which was around 100 US dollars, which I'm sure if you were in the metro could have easily been a $200 bill or even more. A great place to go if you're craving seafood. You have to get the fake lobster. I forgot what it was called, but it comes really cheap here, only around 450 pesos per fake lobster, versus in the Metro Manila, when you get it, it's around 1,200 pesos. If you know the term for the fake lobster, can you please drop it in the comments? Because I forgot what it was called. After this, we went back to the night market and had some dessert and coffees. And like I suspected, the amazing coffee jelly, my one true standout in this night market, was sold out. So we couldn't get any more of it. We got some San Miguel Light, an alcoholic beverage to drink, but we were too tired to drink. So we drank it at the Airbnb the next day for breakfast. Then, capping off our trip, we went to the airport and had our Nena roast chicken, which you saw previously in the video. And of course, we also got some last minute pasalubong. Hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, be sure to leave a like and subscribe for more weekly content, whether it's in long form or short form. And I really hope to see you in the next one. Take care.